Greetings, Earthlings. Hello, and welcome again to another episode of the Gaming Aroma podcast. I'm just failing to speak within the first 5 seconds. That might be a new record. The Gaming Aroma podcast with me, KDB. Gaming chat infused by coffee. It's been a little while. I think this has been 3 weeks since I've done an episode, which I was going to say is through no fault of my own. It's obviously completely my own fault. Sorry about that. I kicked off January really good. I was doing a few podcast episodes for various shows, and was back on the Gaming Aroma train. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm back into my routine, and I'm going to be doing an episode every week, or at least every couple of weeks. But 3 weeks have passed, or is this? I don't think it's a month. I think it's 3 weeks. Either way, just usual stuff, life, everything getting in the way. I came back to work in January, super pumped and ready to go. And I think I peaked after week 2, and I haven't been able to come back up since. And then every weekend I've had something on, and we've been doing stuff and family things, and it's just I hadn't found when I do this podcast, I don't do it to rush it out, to just do it for the sake of it. And in some ways that might benefit the show, to just make sure something's going out every week. But this isn't my job. I'm not a full-time content creator. I'm not a part-time content creator. I just do these shows for fun. And if I'm not in the mood, I'm not in the headspace, I just don't do it because there's just no point. So I'd rather just come on when I actually feel like I have something to talk about and I've got some energy into doing a show. So, also, audio technical thing. If I sound a bit different today, it's because I'm recording this in my kitchen. It should be fine because my microphone's pretty decent, but obviously a kitchen is not a good place for acoustics, so there might be a little bit of reverb. I'll try and clean it up and make it smooth on the edit. But yeah, my wife's upstairs washing her hair. We are rushing around this morning. My son is in the lounge playing Super Mario Odyssey. He's very excited that I collected 9,999 coins for him last night to spend in the shop on Super Mario Odyssey, which has been like his main thing to do in gaming for the past month or so in 2025. But yeah, I couldn't be bothered to set up upstairs. I was just, I had the laptop and stuff downstairs. I was like, right, crack it open, get recording, do Gaming Aroma. So yeah, it's February. It's February already. Hope everyone's doing good. How are you? It is a lovely, crisp 1 degree outside today in the south of England. But it's sunny and bright, which I don't mind. I like being able to wrap up and enjoy the cold, crisp winter weather. But enough of the weather report. I'm going to get straight into it. What about the video game news? I'm going to talk about some video game news and what I've been playing, which is very exciting. Very excited to talk about. Also, first, let's open with this. I was going to write open Critic because I was saying let's open with this. Let's open with this Fantasy Critic. So it was either the last episode or the episode before that I spoke about this. I'm taking part in Fantasy Critic for the first time ever. What is my password? I have no idea. Right, there we go. Logged in. I just did the sign in with Google thing, which is probably not the safest thing to do. But yeah, so I talked about either the previous episode or the week before. First time taking part in Fantasy Critic. So it's basically fantasy football. For those that don't know, it's fantasy football, but for video game releases, which is very exciting. Okay, just as I'm recording, the boiler has fired up as well. The heating's not on, so I don't know why it's doing that. But anyway, yes, Fantasy Critic is underway. I may have been over my picks for the year. My team, Blast Processors. My choices, Grand Theft Auto 6, Sid Meier's Civilization 7, Avowed, unannounced mainline 3D Mario platformer game, Fable, Judas, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, and South of Midnight. And I have one space left for a game which you can add at any point throughout the year. You have to make bids. So we are underway, and I'm currently out of the league of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm sitting 4th, but I should jump up to Yeah, I should jump up to second, a very close second, because I've had 2 games come out. I had Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, which reviewed kind of middlingly in the 70s, so I got a 7 for that. However, Civ 7 is sitting at a solid 80, so I should be getting 8 for that as well. And yeah, like, I'm loving this. It's making me keep my eyes on game releases. It's just like, as someone who has kind of fallen out of love with fantasy football, this is the perfect remedy for that. So if you're playing Fantasy Critic, let me know how you're getting on. What have I got coming up? So Avowed, obviously that's out, I think, next week, and then Assassin's Creed Shadows a couple of weeks later. I'm hoping that, now there's been the preview buzz. I know people hate Assassin's Creed these days. Well, hardcore gamers hate it. The casual public doesn't, because it always sells massive numbers. The previews around Assassin's Creed Shadows have all been positive, saying like, you know, this is a big shake-up for the series. Like, there's lots of changes and refinements. It feels fresh. And yeah, so I'm hoping that is going to net me a nice big 8 or a 9. And then Avowed I'm a bit more unsure about. That's in. I know people are reviewing it at the moment. There's been some previews which I think have been moderately positive, but not like what I saw with Assassin's Creed. So Avowed, I'm expecting more around the 7 and 8 mark, but I'm hoping Assassin's Creed can push for a 9. That would be awesome if it does that. And I'm definitely going to sign up to. I'm one of these people destroying the games industry. I'm going to sign up to EA Play for 1 month so I can play Assassin's Creed Shadows. I really liked Mirage. I may have talked about on this show how my kind of journey with that franchise is. There's like 20 games. I've played maybe 5 of them, and 2 of them I absolutely love. Which is, I'd say 2 of them, like Black Flag and Origins, I absolutely love. I do kind of like the first one as well, although I've never finished it. But then I really liked Assassin's Creed Mirage, the shorter one, which I played late last year. So fingers crossed for Assassin's Creed Shadows. What I've seen of it, I think looks quite good. So yeah, should net me a nice big fat 8 or a 9. Please, fingers crossed. Good luck to everybody else that I'm playing with as well in my league, because you're going to need it. Right, moving on to the news. As I said, it's been a few weeks since I've done an episode, so there's been a fair bit of news in between, but I'm not going to recap everything that's happened. I'm just going to kind of talk about the hot topic. There's only really one major hot topic, and then I'm going to touch on a smaller one slightly after that before I get to what I've been playing. That hot topic, it was hot for about 24 hours. No shocker that I'm going to come out swinging against one of the platform holders here, and that's that PlayStation Network was down for nearly 24 hours. So, as at the time of recording, it's now back up. Everything's back up, but basically all of PlayStation Network's online services were down. And it's funny because I'm looking at the news, I'm looking at VGC here, which I often use to get the news the news from, despite my issues with some of the people who work at this website. Here we go, yeah. It's funny because there's no headline about the PSN being back up, which I find quite funny and quite strange, because surely you think they'd want to report that and let everybody know that it's back up, but no. Why would you report a big positive step in the story? So all I can find is their story where they're still talking about that it was down, and this was like in the middle of the day yesterday. And okay, it was the weekend, so maybe I'll let them off, but anyway. So, PSN has suffered a major outage overnight. Sony said it was aware of the issues and was investigating. The outage, which began on Friday, saw the PlayStation Network, PlayStation Store, and PlayStation Portal all experience issues. While the outage appears to be wide-reaching, some users have reported that they experienced no issues. While Sony acknowledged the issues, it is yet to provide a time frame. Yes, well, this is, this is past news now. According to Down Detector, which registers user complaints online services, there was a large spike in complaints at 11 p.m. UK time on a Friday night. While online services outages are fairly common, I don't really agree with that. They're few and far between. Fairly common is not a thing I'd say about these online outages. One large issue arising from the PSN outage is that due to the way that game licenses are handled on the platform, players with digital copies of their games have found that they are unable to play their games. While some digital titles will launch, PlayStation will warn players that the game will close after 15 minutes due to being unable to verify the license for the fucking game. It doesn't say fucking in the article. I added that. PlayStation will reportedly hold a state of play presentation soon. So yeah, it was down. It was down for a day. I obviously don't have a PlayStation, but I have lots of friends who do. I saw the complaints. I mean, yeah, couple of things. One, as the article says, outages are fairly common. No, they're not. You might get one or two a year, if that. And generally, like in my experience, something with the Microsoft services and Xbox, like if it goes down, it's down for like an hour, maybe two. Like there's a couple of extended periods where that's happened, but I can't remember a time where Xbox has ever been down for nearly a day. And PSN is the same. It's generally just down for a little bit and then it'll come back up. But I know they had the big hack in 2011 where there was issues for nearly a month, right? And like it was around Christmas time. And I don't know if I'm misremembering this, but I have a feeling, wasn't it connected? There was something to do with the Seth Rogen film about North Korea, right? And isn't that potentially what they think might have caused this? What was that film called? Seth Rogen, North Korea. The Interview, that was it. Yeah, it was Seth Rogen and James Franco wanted to interview Kim Jong-un. And so The Interview, PSN network. Yeah, the plot to kill The Interview. So I'm not going to read through all this now, but from the timeline from what I remember was that there was rumours. They were kind of, Sony were threatened if they like put this film out, they were going to be threatened with action and stuff. North Korea denies any involvement in the hack. Yeah, I'm just scanning through this article here. I remember the rumours being like North Korea has something to do with this hack because of The Interview. And it was around Christmas, so loads of people couldn't play their games around Christmas as well, which was not ideal. And nothing like that has ever happened, I think, before or since for that amount of time. But yeah, it's kind of insane. I mean, so yeah, it's not fairly common. This does happen. And I guess, you know, there is a certain level of not to expect this kind of stuff. You know, things break, analog things break as well. So digital services are going to break as well. The issue is, the main thing that this causes an issue with is if this service goes down, you cannot access and play the stuff that you have paid for, or you're paying for a service, a monthly service subscription that is then down, and then you're losing days on that. You know, sometimes phone signal will go down or your internet goes down and your internet provider will give you some days back. And I think since this has come back up, Sony have confirmed that everybody who subscribes to PlayStation Plus will get 5 extra days or something, that's good. That is, you know, it's frustrating that it happened, but that's a good kind of, reimbursement, I suppose. Not to defend the big corporation, but you know what I'm saying. But yeah, so this happened, pissed everyone off, rightly so. This is bad because of the way modern gaming ties digital games to their licenses, as the article said. So even if you own something and the network goes down, you can't play it. So, you know, if the internet goes down at home, there's plenty of games I've got that are physical and offline that I can play, and that's both on mostly the new console but certainly loads with the old consoles I've got. But I think I can sort of see it from both ways. I think if you're going to take part in the new way of doing things, which is, you know, this digital world, it's still kind of relatively new. Things are still being figured out. These are the risks that come with using a service like this while it's still becoming more stable and becoming more modern. Now, this will just happen with everything all the time. You know, my house runs on electricity. We still get power cuts. We had a power cut in like November for literally right as dinner time hit for like 3 hours. And it's like a power cut means obviously no lights, no cooking, no internet, because my the router goes off, and if you haven't got phone signal, you can't access the internet. If your phone battery's dead, you wouldn't be able to charge your phone. So it completely cuts you off, and the electricity's been around for a very long time. It still has issues now and again. So I'm a couple of issues a year. It doesn't really bother me. Extended periods of time. You'd like to think a company as large as Sony has, procedures and contingency plans in place that should this happen, to expect an outage longer than like a couple of hours is, that's a big ask for people. You think this has got to be back on pretty sharpish, but to be out for nearly an entire day is pretty shit. And it's funny that it happens right at the weekend, peak gaming time. They still, I don't think, have confirmed what caused it, but there's a million things that could cause it. It could be weather, it could be rats, it could be sabotage. It's just, yeah. It almost doesn't matter. I think if this is the way you're running basically your entire business, you have to have a plan B. You have got to have something you could switch over to help people out. And I don't think that's too much to ask. They've got enough fucking money. They can sort it out. They can have services that they can instantly switch back on or switch over. And I'm talking about this stuff as someone who has no engineering experience or anything like that, but there has to be a way. But, they don't want to spend that money on those contingency plans. So, and maybe I'm talking out my arse. Maybe this is their contingency plan and that is how long it takes. But I do think it is kind of like, although I'm fine with the odd outage here and there, a couple of times a year, it's just like, yeah, it's the price we pay for the convenience. Being down for nearly a day is unacceptable, really. That's just, yeah. And if I had, I didn't notice it yesterday because I don't use the PlayStation. But if I had like taken time off work or was settling down to play some games and that happened, I'd be pretty pissed off too. So I hope everybody on the PlayStation side enjoys their reimbursement from Sony, and let them know how much this pisses you off, and email them, write to them. No, send a strongly worded letter. But yeah, so that happened. But it also, this whole thing, it got me thinking about, I've talked about plan Bs and contingencies and how do you resolve this stuff. And I mentioned I have physical games in the house, and I, as a big retro gamer, I'm often playing old games, old physical games that do not need to be connected to the internet, and I can play offline and I can enjoy playing them offline. And to be honest, in more recent years, this is the thing that I've kind of started to move more towards with stuff outside of games as well, just with movies and music. And I'm always someone that's had a DVD collection, a Blu-ray collection. I've got rid of some over the years, but when I think about like the games that I've traded in, the amount of games I've sold, it's in the hundreds. It's insane. My DVDs and my Blu-rays, generally, since I started collecting them, I still have most of them. I don't think I've ever sold them because they were never worth doing. Trading them in was kind of pointless. And there's the odd box set here and there that I've probably got rid of, but generally I still have my entire collection that I had from the last 20 years, which is not a lot. I don't have hundreds and hundreds, but of the things that I really enjoyed, I always bought. And some VHSs as well, still from back in the day. And I like... and in more recent years, I've come to really get, like most people, kind of pissed off with the streaming services. And although I still subscribe to, not all of them, but, a couple of them, the constant price rises, the addition of adverts and stuff like that, like, it just becomes a bit insulting. And I think if we didn't, if my son didn't exist, I'm not sure my wife and I would be subscribed to any of these services. He probably gets more use out of them than she and I do. And I'm trying to sort of push, like whenever we go to CEX, like he'll pick up a movie that he wants on DVD, and I'm going to try and do that more and more so I can sort of maybe slowly take these streaming services out of his life, because they do cost a lot of money and the prices are going up, as I've said. And more I just have become disenfranchised with these streaming services. And I know I'm not alone in this. The way they kind of abuse your usage, the way they cancel things, the way they shove crap at you. And then just from a technical standpoint, the quality is shit. Like, many people won't notice this, but the streaming services are not as good quality as a Blu-ray, particularly a 4K Blu-ray as well. It's just, they're not. It's, to the untrained eye maybe, but to me, no, I always see it. And I think back to, even on broadcast, I remember when HBO shows would be shown on Sky, how awful they'd look compared to the actual Blu-ray. And Sky's Now TV streaming service was notoriously the worst one for a while. Like, the audio would be pitched up because they didn't do the power conversion correctly, and the picture quality was crap and stretched. Like, it was so bad. And I think they're slightly better these days, but nothing will beat the physical version, the disc version of that movie or TV show that you love. And okay, DVD is, it's not HD, but if you just want to talk about Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray as well, those versions of the shows and TVs are better than anything you can get anywhere else. And it's nice to have like an old VHS and an old DVD, and they can still be really good quality, but the Blu-ray and particularly 4K Blu-ray are this kind of pinnacle and peak of getting the pristine presentation of these things. And I take a lot of value in that. I can't afford to buy everything I want, but if there's something I really enjoy, I will get it. And I wholeheartedly encourage you to do the same. And streaming services are a great way for access, I suppose, and they can be cost effective in certain ways. But when you add it all up, and if you've got multiple services, no, it's not cost effective. I don't think it's worth it. When you add up really how much you watch stuff, it's starting to get a bit out of hand. And I think we're coming to like a precipice of this where stuff is going to maybe shift again. And interestingly, so this morning when I was having my coffee, my early coffee, I'm on my second one of the day today, I was just Googling about Blu-ray sales and 4K sales. And I remember reading last summer that HMV was saying Blu-ray sales were rising for the first time in a long time. And I think that shows that there's lots of people out there that are getting really frustrated with how we're kind of being ripped off by the streamers. And there was an article as well. I don't know who. I did find a link here. Let me find it. Yeah, there was an article written by someone at Yahoo who was talking about how, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's basically called "The 4K Blu-ray Collector's Market is the Future of Physical Media." And this person goes on to just kind of cite the increased sales and things like that, and how directors in particular are really pushing to make that the 4K version of this movie packed with special features. Which, do you remember when DVDs first launched? Like, special features it was the main selling point. It was so good to get all this behind the scenes stuff and audio commentaries, and then studios started to get really fucking lazy with it, and you were lucky to get a deleted scene on the DVD, and it would be the absolute bare minimum that would come out. And I think I remember Universal being really awful for this. All their discs would just be the same blue color and stuff, and the menus would all be the same horrible UI. Yeah, it was awful, but there was a time in the early days of DVDs where everyone wanted to have the best package. That kind of went away, but it's coming back with 4K now, because studios and directors in particular are becoming frustrated with how their work is being presented to people. They don't want people really watching it on phones and stuff like that. And although that meant much of this stuff is out of their hands, there's a big push now back for the intended presentation, good picture quality, good sound. But how do you entice people to spend 20, 25 quid on a home video version? Well, you've got to pack it with special features as well. And a lot of the 4K releases that come out now are really, really good with special features. So I'm kind of like fully back on the train to making sure I'm buying movies that I love. And these are new movies and old movies, because there's a reason to. Again, there wasn't a reason to for a long time. The DVD packages were crap, but now these 4K packages are really worth the money most of the time. Also, you have to check reviews of a 4K release, because there's a lot of studios, again, trying to take advantage of this collector's market where people are rushing out to buy the 4K. And so they're rushing the conversions and they're rushing the packages, but so some of them aren't as good. And there's been some kind of stories about dodgy like AI upscaling, which is ruining the pictures, and the removal of grain from the pictures and stuff from the, you know, the overall look of the film. And loads of this stuff will not matter to people, and that's fine. But for me, it's really encouraging to see that the sales are up on 4K Blu-rays, because yeah, there's hope yet for the high quality versions of these movies and TV shows. But what does this have to do with games? I just spoke about movies for like 20 minutes. Well, you know, my hope is that, I mean, I'm not going to say that we're going to see a push back to physical games. I think that's gone. I think that ship has sailed. I think, you know, games are different to movies. It's a different technology. It's a different package. How that is delivered to people is very different, you know, in terms of the hardware and the box and stuff. And this is why cloud streaming is taking off, because it makes it much easier to just deliver the same thing to everybody, as long as you've got good internet. But my hope is that if people are loud enough about these outages and these issues about the network licensing and stuff, that the systems can be adjusted and adapted to better suit people, and maybe give people options. Like maybe, and I don't want to advocate for spending more money, but it's like maybe if there was an option, there's a certain license you could buy that allows you to play it offline, and that's the premium price. And maybe there's just an online license only, and that's half the price or something. I don't know. They've got to figure something out, because many people won't care. But I tell you what, when I also saw yesterday that Fortnite took a hit of like 1 million players or something like that because of the PSN outage. You know, when it's those kind of numbers, yeah, you're going to see some pushback, not just from players, because, you know, some players might just, you know, switch off and go, oh, I'll go outside then, I'll go play football or or football, whatever it is people do. I'll go outside and touch grass. But Epic, who own Fortnite, they're going to be knocking on Sony's door, they'll be sending them a strongly worded letter saying, excuse me, you just cost us potentially millions, you know, for the day. So what are you going to do about that? So it's interesting when stuff like this happens. It's like a shake-up. It's a reminder, that classic thing. You always need something bad to happen before it gets better, because it shows the holes in your plan and your model and your strategy. So, and I don't just mean from business. It's kind of from in everything. That's right, I do get philosophical from time to time on this show. So yeah, physical, I hope, continues to live on for a bit longer for games, and if it doesn't, I hope they find some alternatives to combat all this kind of bullshit. But at the same time, if you like movies and music, go and buy them physically as well. I'm back into CDs. Like I've been digging out my old CDs and using my stereo, ironically my Sony stereo. That doesn't go offline. You know, Spotify doesn't go offline. Spotify can go offline. My CD player doesn't. I've got a record player and my vinyls as well. And you can't beat just taking, you know, a CD or a vinyl out of the case and putting it on and listening to the music. Kind of, you know, actually giving the attention to it that it deserves. So I'm a big proponent of all that stuff. And maybe I'm just old and out of touch, but yeah, I think you appreciate things a bit more in the physical form. Digital and the shuffle generation has just made everything so, just kind of, it's just devalued everything. But anyway, so Sony have got their shit together. Stuff is back online, and you can now play your games again, which is good. Where's my notes? That is it, really. That is my main news topic. I mean, what do you think about the outage? Did it affect you? Were you bothered? You know, sometimes it's nice. It's like a reminder, as I said. It's like, no, don't play games. Go out and do something else. Go out and be productive. Stop wasting your life playing video games. But let me know what you think about it. At the top of the show, I said, you know, there was some other news, like 2 more Xbox games are making their way to PlayStation as well. Forza Horizon 5, which is an incredible racing game. Rest in peace to Gran Turismo, because Forza's now coming to PlayStation. And Age of Empires as well, which I don't play, I'm not into, but it's just, this is happening. I say it all the time. Every week there is another reminder of the shift in the industry. Xbox and Microsoft are moving at lightning speed to adapt to this shift that they need. They have no choice but to adapt to, because if they didn't adapt to this shift, they would crumble. They have to. Sony can survive for a bit longer. You know, they're making loads of money on hardware and all that, but be interesting to see when those Sony games start going multi-platform a bit more. Spider-Man 2 just ported to PC faster than any of the other games, and apparently the port is terrible. That's going to maybe make them look at their strategy a little bit as well, because there's not going to be some good feedback there. But it's happening. It's all happening. And I'm a fan of it. Like, I want games everywhere. For First Aid Spray, we just did an Amour episode, a moment of relief. Those who listen to First Aid Spray will be aware. It's like our side show where we just talk about random topics that aren't necessarily to do with Resident Evil. And we did like an hour and a half chat on next gen and what next gen used to mean, what it sort of means today, and what we think it means moving forward. And James, Cy, and myself all kind of spoke about, you know, all those big next gen moments in the past that are just gone these days. Now we've got games from PlayStation 5 being ported to PlayStation 4. We're having back ports, which just kind of tells you what generations are today. You know, they are blurred together, they are extended out, but I highly encourage you to go and check that out. I think it's a Patreon exclusive at the moment, but it's, by the time this goes out, maybe, I think there's usually a couple of weeks exclusivity. It might be out public in the next couple of days, so do seek it out, or come and subscribe to the Patreon. You know, you could do that as well. So yes, the industry is changing. But enough about the change. What have I been playing? So it's been a little while since the previous episode. You'd think, I've been playing loads of games. No, not really, because as I talked about a little while back, I started Cyberpunk 77, which I'm going to get to in a bit. But I'm going to start with a certain hack and slash game or hack and slash franchise has taken over a lot of my gaming time in January. At the Xbox Developer Direct, they announced Ninja Gaiden 4, and also that a Ninja Gaiden 2 remake, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, was available to download on Game Pass that day. When I saw the trailer for Ninja Gaiden 4, I was just so ecstatic. Now, I'm not even a big fan of this franchise, but the fact that I was just seeing a trailer for a video game, you know what I mean when I say that? It's like, yes, this looks like fun. This looks like video game fun, where I haven't got to worry about the story getting philosophical on me. I haven't got to worry about 100 hours of my time. All I've got to worry about is just hacking my way through some demons and hacking people's limbs off as a ninja with some weapons, right? It looks awesome. I can't wait for Ninja Gaiden 4. So I thought, right, I'm going to have to try out this remake of Ninja Gaiden 2, and I flipping loved it. It's definitely got some of those older generation quirks, like the camera's a bit ropey and stuff like that. But I just had, and because I was playing Cyberpunk as well, it was a nice palate cleanser to jump over to this game where, yes, I'm just going to go and slash some fools and slash some demons. In the same way, like kind of Doom the Dark Ages looks like absolutely bonkers fun, but even more so than Ninja Gaiden, I would say. Ninja Gaiden is just a load of fun, and I had so much fun being a ninja, and it took me back to, it's one of those things where it's like the hack and slash genre has kind of gone away, but it's kind of come, and it's been overtaken by like the Souls-likes. It's kind of coming back, and then I think it's something like Stellar Blade, which also caught my eye and was like something that I wanted to buy a PlayStation for. This is kind of in the same vein, and it's just, nope, just go nuts in a video game, slash some people. It's got some hilarious demon characters in it. It's got sexy women. It's got swords. It's got blood, limbs flying everywhere. It's just, yeah, it's cartoony, and it's very like, yeah, this is the genres of old. Reminds me of playing these types of games back in the day when I was a kid, even like Shinobi, and I know Shinobi is very different, but it's just I think we're ready for ninjas to come back and be cool, like everything was ninjas, like the mid 80s to the early 90s, ninjas was like, it was the coolest thing. Ninja Turtles and Shinobi and just, Three Ninjas Kick Back, the movie, like it was a cultural, like the cultural zeitgeist was overrun with ninjas, and they're coming back in a big way. And I think Ninja Gaiden is a big reason for that. Everybody seems mostly hyped for it, but yes, played Ninja Gaiden Black, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, start to finish. Quite challenging in times. I played it on what is effectively normal / easy mode, and I got through it, but there was definitely some moments. There were some moments where I could tell I was playing on an easier difficulty, but I wasn't really up for. I didn't really want to play on the harder difficulties and have to spend ages trying to learn the combos. I definitely learned combos, I was awesome with my parrying and stuff like that. But you can obviously crank it up to the next level where if you miss one button, you're absolutely fucked. So I didn't have it set like that. I just wanted to have fun and play through it, and I really, really did. And there were some latter levels that were a bit challenging. The final boss was quite hard as well, and I thought I was almost maybe going to have to not get through it. But then once I sort of figured out what to do, it was okay, and it was a bit of a breeze. So that just, as I said, completely cleansed my palate of Cyberpunk. While I was playing Cyberpunk, I basically took a break from it for a week to play Ninja Gaiden. And I loved it so much that while I was playing it, I bought the Nintendo DS version, Ninja Gaiden Dragon Sword, which is considered like a bit of a hidden gem, underrated gem on the DS. It plays in portrait mode, which is fun. Use the stylus to do some slashing and move your character around. And then I also just went and revisited the original, Ninja Gaiden 1. Now, I revisited the remaster of the original, which is Ninja Gaiden Sigma. Like, the naming conventions of these games is wild, but it's basically the first game, but it was a slight remaster that came out on the Xbox, I think. And I'm about halfway through that, and I'm probably not going to finish that because I think I'm getting towards the period now where I've had my fill of Ninja Gaiden, but I'm just kind of primed and ready for Ninja Gaiden 4 later in the year. But yeah, in the age of 100-hour story-driven games, it was just nice to have another video gamey game. In the same way that Indiana Jones was very, very video gamey, that still had a lot of story to it. Ninja Gaiden the story doesn't matter. It's funny. Like, I watched all the cutscenes, and some of the bosses have hilarious dialogue. It's so, I think, kind of self-aware. It knows what it's doing, and it's just out to have fun. And can't recommend it enough if you just want, 9 to 10 hours of fun and slashing people with your swords and your weapons. So on from Ninja Gaiden. Also, as I mentioned, I've been playing Cyberpunk, and I have finished it. I finished Cyberpunk 2077. So when did the game come out? 2021? Is that right? So we're 4 years removed from the release of Ninja Gaiden, or 2022, 2023, just over 3 years. Am I imagining it, or did it come out in 2020? Cyberpunk 27 release date. It was December 2020. Wow, okay, so God, time is just, what is time these days? So yeah, I've finished it 4 years after the fact. Obviously, they made some changes to the game and they've updated it and stuff. So I've not played the version that came out when it launched. But my overall feeling is, and I sort of touched on this before, is that it is really, really, really good. It takes itself so seriously. And although at times playing it, I was kind of in that right frame of mind to enjoy the seriousness and enjoy how cool that it wanted to be. There's just other times where I got bored. Really, really bored. And this is a risk with a lot of RPGs. Like, I really love Starfield. There's definitely times in Starfield where I got bored, where like the conversation was just going on too long. I will say that I think Cyberpunk is way more egregious. There is It's particularly the second half of the game. So the whole thing, I'm basically mainlined the story. I did a few side missions here and there, and I've done a couple of missions of Phantom Liberty, which is the DLC. And I've got like 38 hours gameplay time. But the latter half of my playtime was very conversation, dialogue driven. Minimal gameplay, minimal action. And I don't know if that's just on me by just focusing on the main story, because there's definitely gameplay missions that you can do. But for me, the best part about Cyberpunk is not the story. It is the gameplay. It's the net running, the skill trees, all the different weapons, the hacking, that stuff, all working in tandem together is awesome. And it's the best thing about the game. And it's... if you want to, it's the like the net running in particular is what massively sets it apart. You know, you can distract enemies and hack into security cameras, set off explosions and hack their optics, and there's so much you can do. And I'm kind of like halfway through all the perk building, so there's a lot of that even that I still haven't seen. But that was the best part of the game, playing all the net running and the combat and the shooting. Like, I focused on my assault. I was basically like super focused on stealth, but if I had to break out of stealth, it was assault rifles all in. And I'm usually a shotgun guy in RPGs, but I was like, no, I'm going to go into the assault rifles this time. And so hacking, stealth, assault rifle as a backup, and yeah, just anytime I got to really have extended periods of gameplay where you're trying to infiltrate some kind of building or take out people or assassinate someone, that is where the game really sings. The story is very cool. It tries to be very cool. It tries to be very sexy. Everyone smokes. I felt a bit hard done by with how, like, there is loads of choice in the game. Part of me was a bit annoyed that I was missing so much by making certain choices. I know that there's like 7 endings or something. So although I've finished the game, I've probably only seen about 35-40% of it. So there's definitely more I can do. Am I going to go back and revisit it? In dribs and drabs, little stints. I think I need to finish Phantom Liberty. But yeah, you hear Cyberpunk's one of those things that I've heard has got better with time. A lot of people love it now, and I can see why they love it. For me, I prefer the kind of charm and quirkiness and fun of some other RPGs. Like, even The Witcher has so much humor in it. Cyberpunk's humor is very, very thin on the ground. There's just times where I was like, just can someone crack a joke here or something to lighten the mood, because the whole thing is very oppressive most of the time. It is very well written, and I can see what they're going for, and they deserve a lot of credit for leaning fully into the style that they wanted to do. It is an awesome game. For me, I just found it very boring at times with the story, and I just wanted to play more game, have more gameplay. So, and that is possible. You've just got to go out and seek it. I just would have liked a bit more gameplay alongside the main story. So, I'm very glad I've ticked it off. I'm glad it's in the bag. It's been kind of, nagging at me for ages to play it, but I've done it now. And like I said on my first episode of 2025, this year I'm focusing a bit more on just games that I actually want to play and take my time with, rather than last year where I set myself that goal of finishing as many games as I possibly can in a year. I'm not doing that this year. So yeah, but Cyberpunk is in the bag. Not sure what I'm going to move on to next. I'm just kind of waiting for Avowed to come out, which again is another big RPG, so I might struggle going from one to another. Between now and then, I think Avowed comes out later this week. Maybe some more Ninja Gaiden, maybe... What was I playing? Oh, I fired up the original Perfect Dark. I'm going to try and blast through some of that. So play some Perfect Dark this week. Obviously, we've got a new Perfect Dark game coming out as well, so that's why I wanted to jump in. Never really played... I've played Perfect Dark Zero, I think, a bit. Never finished any of them. So yeah, I'm going to try and dabble with those. Definitely going to check out Avowed. Definitely going to check out Assassin's Creed. And these are all games that I'm going to have to dedicate a bit of time to. So, yeah, that's it. I'm going to wrap this up because it's Sunday. I've got to go do some family things. But let me know what you're playing. Let me know if you've played Cyberpunk. Like the podcast, subscribe, leave a rating, all that stuff you're supposed to do. Always more gaming aroma coming very soon. I promise it won't be 3 weeks next time. Give me a break. I've got a life, I've got a life to live. But yes, let me know your thoughts on all things gaming, all the news, what you're playing. I will be back again very, very soon. Till next time, take it easy. Bye, 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 bye.